Hey, everybody listening. Welcome to Forever Exile, the Path of Exile podcast, technically episode 111. Unfortunately, Tyler and I are stuck in the middle of the BC floods that are happening right now and are just unable to put something together for our episode 111 with Brittany. Thankfully, she's being awesome and we're going to be back with her in episode 112 next week. We figured the only next best thing to do was to re-release our episode that we did with Kamil. Kamil is the composer for Grinding Gear Games, does all the music for Path of Exile. We had an incredible chat with him in episode 50, and we are going to re-release that as episode 111, and hopefully we will be back to join you in episode 112. Welcome to Forever Exile, the Path of Exile podcast. I am Justin, aka Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
And today we are super excited to be joined by the legend, Kamil Orman-Janowski, music director and composer at Grinding Gear Games. Kamil, welcome to the show.
Hey.
I got the name right.
Glad to be here. Yeah, absolutely.
It took a little practice.
That was perfect. Yeah.
So I actually, before we get into it, because we're obviously super thrilled, and big thank you for joining us and taking some time out of your day.
It's only a pleasure on my side.
I was talking with someone recently about this upcoming conversation, and she's a streamer. Her name's Brittany, and what she wrote about you like actually blew my mind, and I told her I was going to steal it as an intro for you because just of how well written it was. Plus, I wanted to see if I could just make you feel a little uncomfortable right off the bat.
Yeah.
So this is what she said. She said, there are brilliant composers out there. They know exactly how they want to stack and move sound, but it's even more rare to find a composer who is also a brilliant engineer on top of it. To not only stack and move music, but to go out there and create what's missing from maybe a normal sound palette because it doesn't fit what's in your head. I feel like video game composers have to do this more often than those who may compose more traditional scores. Kamil is for video game music what Nick Johnson is for progressive metal guitar. It's all original, but so hauntingly familiar, like you've heard it before, like you've known it your whole life, and it's perfect. Nothing he's made for anything has ever slightly felt out of place, and it's so impressive. Every theme track is perfectly tailored.
Well, I wish that would be true. You know. Okay. Yeah, it's. I mean, that's great. Thank you very much for that. It's a great compliment. Yeah, it's probably so far from true.
Does it feel weird knowing that that's what most people think of you, though? I mean, really, in the Path of Exile community.
Well, I'm actually very happy how PoE community, enjoy music, how they always try to comment, send some great feedback. And but in the same time, it's sometimes it feels a bit like a dream. It's, depending on comment. This great compliment, absolutely.
She hit it bang on. It was perfect.
Yeah.
So how long you been with GGG, or is it Triple G? What do you say? Triple G or GGG?
Let's go with Triple G. That's a new
right,
level of quality. Triple G.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So how long you been with them?
So 2 years remotely as freelancer from Poland. I guess 2 years, something like that. And then it's 5 years already here in New Zealand, I would say. Yeah, almost five years.
So somebody told us that after 5 years, you're officially a Kiwi. Is that a thing down there that you're officially?
Oh, no.
No, you're not there yet.
No, I mean, not in my case, I would say. I spent most of the time in the cave, and obviously we talk a lot with each other, and we spent time outside together. It feels like a big family, but I don't really spend too much time with other people from New Zealand, to the point that we've got a multinational team, so pretty much everything is fully understandable. We kind of, I would say, adjust ourselves to each other, and we know each other. But then when I go outside and I talk with someone, a Kiwi accent is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So I sometimes feel like I'm in a completely different world.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that you were freelancer with them for 2 years. What was that process of going from a freelancer composer for them to all of a sudden in-house?
So there was Act 4. I was working on Act 4, and after Act 4, Eric, our creative director, basically told me, you know what, you can come here. Let's move you here so you can work with us on daily basis, better communication, everything. And at the beginning, I was like, that's a joke, right? I wasn't sure. And then after I guess a few minutes, I realized, and that the whole happiness. I was like, yeah, I'm in. I'm absolutely in. It took me at least a few minutes to realize that what that means to go to the very end of the world and work with GGG.
Was it a big process to actually like move down to New Zealand and be able to work there?
Yeah, pretty much. The good thing is because I'm not very much a hardware guy when it comes to studio. I've got most stuff like purely digital, all instruments, virtual instruments, maybe except some typical stuff. So relocating was pretty much taking hard drives, headphones, I don't know, some very basic things, audio interface. But I think that was difficult because whole visa process, synchronizing with my girlfriend back then, it was definitely very challenging. Like, I don't think that back then I was fully aware of all difficulties. I was like all in.
I'm out of here. We're going.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about New Zealand, per se, like I'm going to Mordor, I'm going to Hobbiton, all that stuff. I was like, I'm going to GGG. I was completely not aware about all. Good stuff which I've got here.
Yeah, the focus was more grinding your games and what you were going to be doing.
Yeah, because that was exciting as a freelancer, switching for a full-time job. Like, that was something completely new for me.
Where do music and video games fall in line with each other for you? Like, have you always loved video games and music, or did you just kind of fall into video games with your love of music, or how do they coincide with you?
Well, I think I am, or I at least was a gamer. I mean, I'm still here. I'm still I still am. But I think it started with video games. The soundtracks. This is the thing which was with me from the very beginning, from like 6 years old or something, 5 years old. Like listening Ennio Morricone on tape. I couldn't sleep without that. So that was a thing. But then I kind of, I was just, playing video games in primary school, all that stuff, consoles, PCs, all that stuff. And I guess later, I was actually terrible with music when it comes to, I haven't played any instrument. I started very late, 19 years old, I guess. That was the first time when I got my FL Studio. Back then it was Fruity Loops, and I started just putting some beats, making some very simple EDM.
Yeah.
And then the EDM thing, actually, that was. But in the meantime, I've been always a gamer, quite active. Like, I spend a lot of time on some games like Skyrim, like Diablo First and Second. What else? Yeah.
So you mentioned a couple games already, but as you were growing up, because I know you did EDM for a bit.
Yeah.
And then you shifted out of that and got into more the composing.
Yeah.
Was there a specific reason first for that shift?
Well, okay, so the EDM is quite limiting, especially if when you have labels which have certain type of requirements. Like I was doing trance music mostly, and all that stuff back then. Armin van Buuren, Tiesto, all those guys had some sort of playlists that was very prestigious, and all stuff which you could hear there. That was great, great music, but in the same time very full of limits. Like it's 4-on-4 beat, and it needs certain sort of introduction, outro, and same type of melodies. You have very limited emotions which you can expect from that. I wanted to try something different, and also if you are an EDM producer, you can be a great producer, which I wasn't. The thing is that you also need to be a live person. You have to be a DJ. You have to play your stuff, get gigs and all that things, which basically gives you money. You can't really earn money from, and that was back then. Now it's probably way worse. You can't really earn money from, that was Beatport, the portal. There wasn't any Spotify back then, and you can't really get money from MP3, especially if there was so many, illegal copies comparing to the downloaded one.
So how do you switch then from that? Like, how do you go from that to then all of a sudden?
That was pretty much wraeclast, I would say. I just started doing different things, and I got my first orchestra library, and I was like, okay, let's try something. And I built a portfolio of like 5 tracks, which covered like basics. One was pretty much epic orchestral stuff. I would say Dark Knight ripoff, something like that. Another one was something very, very subtle. And, I was so happy because I could cover much more different emotions with that music. And I started with some stuff which some completely indie, not non-paid jobs. But I was lucky enough that very quickly I got my first paid job. That was a browser game, like a mix of Baldur's Gate and Heroes of Might and Magic. By the way, one of my favorite games ever.
Which one?
Both Baldur's Gate and Heroes of Might and Magic. Yeah, all time. And since that I kept doing that because there was much more fun.
We asked a number of people that are patrons for our podcast to throw questions at us that they had for you. So some of these are coming from them as well, but a lot of people love to know and want to know more about where your inspiration comes from. Are there specific composers, genres of games, or like what is it that tends to be the things that inspire you when it comes to writing?
I think there's tons of that stuff. There are 2 types of inspiration for me. Like, there's a direct inspiration, all the references which I gather and try to get some ideas about technical stuff, about also some artistic stuff. But there's a lot of stuff which I heard in my life or I watched or whatever, and it's just there. And like all stuff obvious, that's super obvious, but Hans Zimmer, obviously. That's pretty much my hero from very beginning. I remember the Rock, that movie.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Oh man, that sequence of stuff when
this is like pure adrenaline. But just to clarify, it's not only Hans Zimmer; it's also Harry Gregson Williams. Those guys. Basically, for that sort of stuff, Hans is great in everything, and Harry as well. Just that sort of stuff, they basically made a movie where music was like a best, soldier there. It's just pure adrenaline every time, all epic themes and very classy, all electronic. Like I love the mix of symphonic orchestra with electronic stuff. That's another reason why I left doing EDM, because I like mixed stuff, completely different stuff, from orchestral to electronic to I don't know, metal to some ethnic stuff. And based on that, on that preference, I kind of can can give you names of many different composers who basically try to mix that stuff as well. So definitely Hans is great in that, and or Junkie XL, Beer McCreary as well. His score for God of War. This is more like ethnic, mostly symphonic and ethnic, but I love this one so much. Junkie XL and Tyler Bates, all stuff related to 300. Like when you have some influence from Persian Empire, Medes, Greek, all that stuff mixed together with modern elements, that's something which I love.
I'm actually kind of curious now, just listening to you talk about these. Can you watch a movie and just watch a movie? Or are you like, is the music the thing?
This is, I think the answer is pretty much the same, like both ways. Like, sometimes I turn my mind off for that perspective to not analyze everything. And sometimes I just analyze every single bit of it. Yeah, I try. I mean, when I'm very hyped on something, I think I don't analyze too much, or maybe even not at all. Like, I think with watching Dark Knight, I was pretty much fun, like watching and enjoying without any stuff. And then after that, I started analyzing. But that was that part which I mentioned, the reference part, when I tried to learn as much as possible. I think this is very much a separate process for me.
You mentioned Might and Magic. Played Clash of Heroes like crazy. I don't know if you ever played that one. I absolutely loved it. I see you tweet sometimes some of the games you're playing, and Dark Souls is one of them. I'm liking those ones like crazy. I'm a Dark Souls freak. Do you get... Is it hard to kind of, like, when you're playing Dark Souls, that's one where the environment and the music and the sound just really tell the story for you, right? There's very little dialogue. Do you get any inspiration from something like Dark Souls? I mean, it wasn't in your original list, which I don't know if I can forgive you for, of inspiration, but do you...
Well,
having that
wait.
trilogy span like a decade.
Which tweet you mean? like there was a tweet like my favorite 5 games of this generation, I guess.
Oh, nice.
And I'm pretty sure there was Dark Souls in that list. I'm almost certain that I love Dark Souls. So
it's not in that list.
Oh my god.
Oh, hold on. I will say it's in brackets. It's
okay.
MGSV Phantom Pain, so or maybe Dark Souls 3. It's there.
Okay.
It's there.
Okay. All right. You laminated the list with brackets. I get it. There was a picture of you just finished with your character, and you just finished beating the prophet. This is going to make me sound bad now. And you're in the cathedral, and it's a sweet background. You're just at the boss, or Pontiff. You just beat Pontiff.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you get any inspiration from that game as well? I personally want to ask because I'm a Dark Souls freak, and it's okay to say no, but we'll just not ask any more questions and end the interview.
It was a bit not opposite, but I started playing Dark Souls way too late. Like I heard about the game, I was fully aware about the mood of that game and how much potential this game has for any possible inspiration. But somehow, yeah, I had one try where I made basically, the very first boss completely destroyed me. And if you have a very little time after work, and 30 minutes, or for 40 minutes, it's not enough to enjoy the game like Dark Souls. And it's not enough to actually be like, okay, let's try again and again and again. It's it was like, sorry, I have to quit. And then after I don't know, like a month or maybe 2, I tried again. This time on the PS4 and on the big screen. I was completely relaxed. I was like, okay, I can be annoyed by first boss. I will do my best. And
annoyed's a good word. Annoyed's a good word for that.
I was very careful with every enemy, and suddenly I defeated the first boss at the first time. At this time, this playthrough. After that, when I got to the shrine and I got my first level, oh my god, I was completely hooked up. Like, because that's another thing. the music, music in Dark Souls is absolutely amazing. But there's not much music at the very beginning, because this is not a game where you want music when you just go through typical areas. And I fully understand that decision. Just I always enjoy when there's at least a glimpse of something. But when I get to the shrine, I just, this piece of music is absolutely amazing. Is beautiful, melancholic, a bit depressive, and that pretty much described, the whole mood of the game. And I was in. We can go with Dark Souls.
Oh, I could talk about Dark Souls all day, man.
He could go all day.
I'm completely casual, but I finished game, so maybe I'm not that terrible.
Good for you.
Did you play the first time on PC then, or what was the first time? Where did you play it?
On PC.
Keyboard and mouse?
No, that was actually Xbox pad.
Okay. Yeah,
but I didn't
really
enjoy. I was always a PC gamer, but I have to confess that I kind of switched for consoles.
Well, actually, I think a number of your top games you picked too. I imagine you were playing those on console.
Yeah.
You have chosen correctly. Congratulations.
Do you remember the first song you ever composed for PoE?
Yeah, it was terrible.
What? I doubt it.
I mean, okay. Firstly, there was a demo. Eric asked me to make a demo for PoE, which it's like everything and nothing to just fit the general mode, and that was quite terrible, and not in the same time, because it sounded a little bit like a tribute to Diablo 2. But in the same time, was more playful, more a bit less dark, I would say. And that was the first piece, but it never ever got to the game, I guess. Oh, sorry, I think it might be somewhere there in files. But it's not used. And the second piece, which was actually for a specific area, that was Imperial Gardens.
Okay.
It's still there. I don't like this one.
You sound so disgusting.
I mean, it mostly because of all technical things. I really, over all these years working for PoE, I also learned how to, compose music, how to mix music, how to produce music other than EDM. I had obviously before experience with other games, but that was a bit different, like really different level, and my expectations, their expectations, but those expectations obviously evolved. My expectations were lower, and a triple G, and somehow this track got to the game. Back then we were happy, but I don't like it.
Gotcha. It's cool to hear, though. That's cool to hear. Do you play PoE at all, like as a game? Do you just sit down and play it, or do you have to say yes?
No, I don't have. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I had quite a long episode where I completely synced to the game together with Atlas, the first Atlas. Getting to the shaper, that was something. That was still the time when I had a bit more time. It's all about free time, to be honest. And when I don't play PoE, it's usually because I try to keep up with some other games, get some different inspiration to just not stack with, and what I can get from PoE when there's my music. That's something which I really don't want to listen too much.
So that was actually kind of something we were curious about, is as you're playing, are you muting your own music? Are you listening to the music? Are you?
Well, okay, so it's not that bad as I pictured this so far. Like, yeah, I've got different. Okay, if I usually test some stuff after release as well, just because not everything can be fully. I can be fully objective about everything, because on test server, you just You just push God mode. You push super speed. I mean, I try to not do that, and I really try to spend some time actually playing, because that's very important for getting idea about how a long specific track's supposed to be, how it feels. But it's just a different mood when you do this on the test server. When something is released, it's just finished, and I play as a player, but in the same time, I try to catch all small things. Maybe I could do something better. Maybe I can do something better next time. Maybe something supposed to be more interactive. That's one way of me playing PoE. That's something which I do pretty much all the time. And another thing is when I actually play, when, there's farming, crafting, all that stuff. I'm terrible at that, but I try to do sometimes. I have to confess that I'm pretty much standard player.
Yes!
Oh, they're so happy.
It's all about time. I played some leagues because I started with that initial idea of testing stuff, and I completely synced. Delve, for instance. That's the thing. This is very dangerous for me, because I have to keep going with music for the new content, and it getting addictive. And I try to just separate as much as possible. The thing is, because I'm with GG from the beginning, I tried a lot of content, different content, and you get like that sort of a renaissance, and you play more, and sometimes you just work. You enjoy all that stuff, but more on the test level, where I'm like, okay, like with Heist. I haven't played a Heist yet, but when we were working on Heist, I was so happy listening to all dialogues, seeing all NPCs, all that stuff. It was pure inspiration. This is sometimes it's only that much as I can enjoy PoE, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I wish to spend more time.
When you play on standard, do you have a certain play style or like a go-to build that you like? Anything that just fits home that you just go to?
For if you don't play that much, the best build is that build which really works with everything.
Yeah.
Some sort of cyclone, or nice. I don't know what else. I was butcher all names, but there's that stuff which basically casts blizzard when you ice rain when you use, and like you this one pretty much with
Whispering Ice, right?
Yeah, this one, yeah. And I had my marauder. At first that was with Templar, and then with this one, but that was quite a long time ago. I still have this one. I don't even know if that's still viable. But the cyclone, this is something like with at Siri disfavor, counts hard. This is something which I use if I want to check mostly changes to the end game. Like, let's say we've got new Atlas, new bosses. Then because it's ready, it's a 95 level, it's geared up, I can just jump and start testing without syncing, without that I would say delirium, to getting to master that. My problem is that I get too competitive with games, so I try to not be involved too much. That kind of explain my list of my favorite games of the generation, because they are pretty much mostly single player games.
Yeah.
So you were not an invader in Dark Souls, or was the competitive side of you always invading other people and trying to crush their souls?
Yeah, when I saw first Invader, I was like, oh no, again. I will have to go to their realm and kick their ass. I mean, no. To be honest, no, not really. I tried to avoid it, but I was so annoyed by invaders.
Yes.
because I wanted to use that Ember all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's when they kicks them out, right?
Mm,
Because there's one you can kick them out.
I was terrible. So there's that place, I don't remember the name of it, but you've got like swamps and the big crabs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair and Keep.
Yeah, around that stuff. And the one before, I guess. Anyway, and where you meet the Dark Knight? What's the name of that knight?
Those big ones that are from the previous games, Dark Souls 1.
Yeah. So that was the place where I died so many times, fighting with invaders. You know,
They're bastards,
completely.
man.
I was
They're
lost in that between those trees and on that swamps, and I was happy. Okay, I defeated this guy, and then the giant crab suddenly appeared, and I'm done.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Do you work on other games now? Like now that you're working for Triple G, do you still outsource? Like, do you still do anything outside of PoE?
I do some stuff, but I don't really have too much time, to be honest, especially lately. So it's usually some small things, maybe trailers, some projects which size-wise are very small comparing to the PoE amount of music.
With PoE, of course, it has certain themes and elements based on the world that PoE is in. From a musician's standpoint, does making music for PoE scratch all of your musician itches? You know what I mean? Like all the different styles or things that you want to do? Or do you have to create stuff on the side just for fun, just so that you're not always doing the same style of thing? Is there enough variety in the game for you?
Absolutely. That's sometimes I feel like it's a bit of a problem. I mean, in a good way. Just it's challenging because the game is massive. It has a lot of themes, a lot of different influences from different cultures, different expansions, different leagues. Especially lately with leagues when we tried, really different stuff. It's challenging. In the same time, I never felt bored because of the new content. Like right before I get information about new league, I feel like, oh, another league. And then I got information. I'm like, yeah, I've got an idea. Let's go with this one. Like with Heist, for instance.
Cool.
Are there certain types of like stories or things that they tell you about, atmospheres or whatever, that get you more hyped? Like, is there something that makes you more excited than others?
I don't want to really say what hyped me more or what less. I mean, the way how I work, I just do research. It wasn't like this all from the beginning, but since I work more like a music director, it's more like that sort of a musical inquisition, and I go around and try to bother people. Give me some information, please. And the thing is that, I spend a lot of time talking with other guys how certain things can be done, about story, about mechanics. I check, like the first line probably is concept art, one of my favorite. Beside typical concept art, we have something which is, I would say it's pretty much the same, just it's more detailed. Like imagine it's mood paint, I would say, where you've got how certain location can looks like, not like a picture of I don't know, let's say temple or something. It's more like exactly how it could look like at the end. And this is something which is extremely inspiring, and this is something which basically gives me like a 50-60% of what I need to know.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm like, different composers have different approach. Sometimes it's more focused on story. Sometimes it's more focused on environment. And also, of course, it depends on the game. For me, I love PoE story, and I always like to get involved in all that stuff. But the final, like something which has the biggest impact is environment, because it described, for me, all culture influences. It described pretty much like what type, is it day or night? Sunset or something. Is it rainy or it's like a perfect weather? All that stuff, it's super important for me because I don't know, just for me, it basically described a lot of that mood. And if it's indoor or outdoor, this is extremely important. How big the space is. Is it if it's a temple, if it's a small chamber, if it's open, I don't know, let's say some planes or something.
That's cool. I always picture you sometimes just like taking a break from all of it, just like turning the lights out, turning on your disco ball at the top of your office there and just having a good 20-minute dance out.
I think with that EDM, that was like episode when I was very technical about that stuff. I wouldn't say I was like, okay, I want to make EDM because I love dancing. It was always like when I was somewhere in some sort of discotheque, I was like, okay, everyone were dancing and I was watching DJ, checking.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of my approach in this case.
Do you work much on the weekends, or do you guys pretty much stick to the Monday to Friday?
It depends. I like working on the weekends because it's very quiet. I mean, it pretty much depends on the weather. Like if the weather is terrible, like today, then it's the best time. Like when it's rainy, I feel more inspired because I don't feel that pressure that okay, it's sunny, it's spring, it's New Zealand. Come on, let's go, let's do something. It's it's just easier for me to work if I'm not aware of great weather.
Are you guys still in like a lockdown type thing in New Zealand? Like what's the situation? Not at all.
It's, we've got those 4 levels and we basically got to the level 2 again. That level 2, it's pretty much all about gathering a restriction. It's 50 people, I guess.
Right.
But, well, we are lucky, very lucky with the numbers. And even if there's something going on, again, badly, it's still not as bad as, in other places. But I think the reaction is very positive, is very fast. We basically limit everything very quickly to the point that it's easier to track, easier to prevent, easier to just completely separate.
Did you have to work at home as well when everyone went into lockdown?
Yeah, twice. That's the story about those headphones. Because I don't.
Oh yeah, right.
I don't trust my my bedroom.
Yep. That's awesome.
You're good for like we're only about like 1% done. You're okay with that?
Yeah, the 99%. I guess it will be Dark Souls continue.
That's right.
Hey, I'm on board.
Yeah.
Freaking love that. How many people are a part of your music team? Do you call it a music team? Is it like a one-man Rambo show, or are there a bunch of you? Or I mean, you're like 007. Good for you.
It's pretty much me, to be honest.
Oh, that's cool. So do you call yourself the music department?
Yeah, that's actually a bit weird. Being a music director and being a composer in the same time, and just I can't really give myself a feedback. I mean, I write feedback, I do, but then everything goes to our creative director. But it's more about general overview, if the direction goes well, if the progress goes well. But those all small details and planning, all that stuff, it's pretty much me. And then I try to execute that as best as possible.
Is there is it often where something you're writing's not getting into the game?
I mean, sometimes I just, I made a few versions which couldn't be there because just didn't fit at all. And sometimes that decision, sometimes I pre-eliminate that stuff at the very beginning before I even send this to Eric. And sometimes we both don't like something, or Eric doesn't like something, and That's pretty much how it works. But I always try. The more I work here, the more I know what we need and what I can expect from feedback. So I can reject a lot of versions at the beginning before I even start doing the specific thing, before I start any polishing, any stuff like this. And it happens. I'm not sure quite often. I don't know. It depend on the content. Sometimes it just straight away. Sometimes, like I can tell you that for PoE 2, I'm much more careful because I really try to tidy up all stuff when it comes to the macro scale. Like this is pretty much part of my job, making sure that for the macro scale everything works. So even if something, a specific track might be actually okay, it's expectations are bigger, and it's better to start over again than keep pushing. I had a situation where I was completely not happy with something, but I kept pushing, and that was a big mistake because many times. After the initial sketch, when I start over again, I suddenly have something way better. I don't even know why. Like, I think the Legion track is a good example. It wasn't the first version. But then when I started again with the actual one, which you heard, it was like 3 days, and I was done. This one.
Wow.
Because this time, things triggered as they supposed to. And previously, I spent, week on a sketch which never ever got to the game. It was way slower, completely different approach.
Sometimes it just clicks.
Yeah.
How much of you referenced it a little bit, but how much of the story of the lore do you know before you start? Is the story completely done by the time you get it and use it as your inspiration, or is it only partially done and you have the overall arch?
It depends on content. Like all big expansions and PoE 2, and before Fall of Oriath, then Act 4, all that stuff. I'm very careful. I always try to get as much information as possible and know the lore. We have a lot of discussion about the lore. I'm not that well informed as some other people, obviously, but I try to participate in that stuff as much as possible, even if something is pretty much a small detail which probably has no influence on the content which I supposed to make.
You did they did the PoE 2 video for you where you talked about the music in PoE 2, and just listening to some of the things you talked about, like it baffled me a little bit about the idea of you having an image of a cathedral or an image of an area and that you can just start to write, you can start to compose. Is that normal to be able, like, is that often where you're going, okay, here's a picture, I can just like, I got this, I'll figure this one out? Or is that normal for you to just have a little bit of input visually and to be able to just totally put yourself in that spot and hear the noise?
I believe this is not something extraordinary, because this is something which is required from composers, at least on the, on a certain level, where you have to be able to, I don't want to say force inspiration, but sometimes you have to force inspiration. You have to be able to create something very quickly based on script, based on a few pictures, and start a way that you see a certain type of environment, and okay, let's use a good example from PoE 2 in Act 1. What you guys seen on that video. So that cathedral, let's call it cathedral, or maybe let's go with that crypt.
Yep.
Pretty much based on what I saw on the artwork at the beginning, I knew it's gonna be it's gonna be cold there. It's gonna be dark. It's all those things, feelings, and emotions which that environment basically implicate. You as composer supposed to know what type of tools you need. Then, beside those obvious ones, because you want to have something unique, you try to go outside of the box. But it's like you need to know certain rules. What is good? What is safe solution? It's good to start with safe solution and then keep changing that to the point when it feels unique. So those safe solutions. This is something which, like, every composer supposed to be able to achieve relatively quickly when see any references.
Yeah, I would say that's extraordinary. My head can't wrap around that at all.
Maybe it's just me, because I tend to watch a lot of and listen a lot of podcasts with other composers. I think it's just part of that job. It became more difficult, definitely, because of time, because of different medium, interactive content. That's another thing when the music's supposed to be more interactive, how to plan that stuff. And how quickly you can get to the point where you can actually start work based on certain premises. Yeah, that's like I don't know if maybe it sounds a bit extraordinary.
It's amazing to us. It's amazing.
It does
to us,
sound,
that's for sure. Do you have to kind of gauge which, like, I don't know the proper terms. Is calling them tracks okay? Like music sections? I don't know. What do I call, like, when you go from one area to another, do you have to, when you're making the music, plan, okay, like this one's getting more, like this is the intro to the area, this next section after this door is going to be a little bit more intense. Do you have to plan it that way, or is it somebody else that takes your tracks that you've written for the environments and then throws it in their discretion?
Actually, I implement everything on my own. The different thing is with hooking up that stuff. Sometimes it's me, sometimes programmers or designers helps me with that, depending on which tools we use. But pretty much this is something which I have to do, and I have to keep that in mind every time I do new content. I think Heist is a good league to talk more about elements like this, because PoE is still a bit old-fashioned when it comes to the music approach. I mean, like in Diablo 2, the idea, back then that was limitation, because music was streamed from CD. So you basically, you had like a one track per zone, and it was just looped and pretty much it. But there was much more pressure on the music itself. The music's supposed to be, we all know how great the music from Diablo 2 is. But today we've got different tools. We can do much more. And the Heist is a good example, because we've got alert level. It's value from 0 to 100. And the way how I set up that music is there are 3 different modular modules of music cues, which play one after another, depend on the alert level. So up to 1/3, you've got the first segment played on loop. Then when you hit the certain threshold, then you get to another one, and then to another one. And then finally, when you hit 100%, you've got transition, you've got that countdown, and then there's another one, another segment, and then it switched to the alarm part.
The terrifying
one. I wonder if
it gets you amped up. It definitely gets you going.
I tried to make it more playful a bit. I mean, it's like, I think this league is a bit different. It's definitely not that dark. It's more like, I think the first word which comes to my mind was, okay, let's make it badass.
Yeah.
Which it totally is, yep.
Are there certain environments that are hard to write for? Like, are there certain elements that you just don't click with and you have to force your inspiration, like you said?
That's actually tricky, because I noticed that sometimes I love environment from the very beginning, and I like the theme of it, and somehow I can't really find the perfect language for that. And then there is something which do I really have to? and then suddenly it clicked, and I not only start liking this place more, but also I came up with something which is pretty much better than what I did for something which I initially liked more. So yeah, I don't know if I have anything which I like less. Okay, like it's a wrong word. I mean, something which makes more trouble. For me, troubles comes when there's certain stage of a certain phase of production where I have to finish music. Like starting the music is usually easy. I mean, not always easy. But sometimes I can stuck with certain ideas. But when it comes to the finishing, polishing, this gets less artistic, less. It's more about full focus for a certain amount of time. When you have to be fully objective about your own work, yeah, that's probably what is difficult. Not any specific location.
So in terms of the release schedule and, kind of crunch time, right?
Yeah.
You're releasing stuff every 3 months. When's your crunch time? Like, for example, QA, like they're just like pushing it right until like the very last minute. And then also after release, do you have a different pressure of crunch time that you have to be finished absolutely everything before everyone else gets to touch on it? Or do you have the same end time?
I try to crunch a bit all the time. I try to just stretch everything in time as much as possible. This is very tricky because the best way to achieve a perfect results with music is to have a full picture of something and be aware of every single aspect. But it's not possible. I mean, it is possible, but that would make me not work for most of the time. And then at the end, I would probably kill myself. So the way how I deal with that stuff, it's pretty much, I just, as I said, I do my Inquisition thing. And I try to get as much information as I can. Start as early as possible. And keep that dialogue with, environment artists, creative director, with Mark, who is our content lead, about all mechanics, because that's also very important. You can hit the right mood, but the music actually is not functional at all. It's tricky because sometimes you just get certain information after time. And yeah, by the way, this is like, well, again, about the splitting content. When you have a good big content, there's much more time to actually get idea earlier what we're supposed to achieve. With the leak content, it's more tricky because the length of the production cycle, it's 3 months or something. It's just many things appears quite late for me. So I have to kind of like intercept certain ideas before, find a good interpretation, and make something which allows me to be more flexible, to basically avoid crunching at the end. Also, to be honest, I think I couldn't really wait too long with starting with the new content, because that's like when there is a crunch time and there's that production or polishing or mixing all that stuff, which is a bit annoying. Then when I get information about the new league or the new content, it's pretty much a Christmas. It's all about inspiration, and I think I couldn't really wait that long.
Just sort of bouncing off what you were saying, does that become an additional struggle right now while you're also working on PoE2 plus you have new leagues? Like, is that easy to keep them separate? Because I assume they haven't brought anybody new in to start working on PoE2, which means
I think you can always complain about the amount of stuff which you're supposed to do, but I'm pretty sure that based on standards, it's not that much. Also with PoE2, how to say to not give away to it.
It's all right. It's just us here.
Yeah. No one else is going to hear this.
I mean, PoE 2 gives me more time to actually try things, and also to enjoy making music for that. It just, yeah. I mean, it's not like I don't like leak content. I love leak content. It just it's PoE 2 is less tricky for me. It's like something which you cook slowly, carefully, to make it perfect.
That's awesome.
I mean, the thing about the PoE in general. From one hand, I work on PoE 1, PoE 2, but it's not the game which it's not the type of game which requires the most of the music. Like, it's not that demanding, I would say. And also, you have to keep up with standards. You have to be faster and better all the time.
In that same, I think it was in that same video, you talked about boss fights, more referencing towards PoE 2, but I'm curious, just across PoE 1 and upcoming PoE 2, do you prefer writing and composing for like an area or an environment, or more for a boss fight? Like, is there a preference for you? Do you enjoy one more than the other?
I need both. I need both, because one is a cure for another. Like, when you spend too much time on boss fights, obviously it's more intense. You need to have a break. You need to relax, and even if the location is quite scary, it's still a different approach to the music. And then vice versa. If you go with something slower, you might get a little bit bored sometimes. So it's good to pump up adrenaline with bosses. And I really like to. That's actually, again, that's a part of my job, to plan that production the way that I can, like, imagine that you bake something. You bake a lot of things together, a bit here, a bit that, a bit here, a bit there. You need to switch. Even during the one day of working, it's good to like do some work on the boss fight and then switch for the regular area to just relax, or opposite.
So you talked about, well, we won't bug you about PoE 2 too much, but you talked
yes,
about...
we will. Yes, we will.
Like, being able to take your time, and some things are a little bit slower, but are there certain types of instruments that you like to experiment with, whether that is in current stuff or been past stuff you've done, or even upcoming stuff? Like, is there something that sort of just seems fun to experiment with when it comes
everything.
to that?
Okay, so since Belly of the Beast in Act 4, I really started experimenting more with different weird, bizarre sounding guitars with a lot of echo effects, reverb. Plus, this is something which I love. Try things with electronic stuff. This is kind of my a legacy. So sometimes you can maybe hear some trancey elements or some EDM approach, perhaps, like with the latest mystery box.
Oh, so good.
I don't know if you hear if you've found those certain things, elements or solutions which are there and might be a bit EDM kind of like.
I don't know how you do what you do with those mystery box ones, but it always costs me money. Always.
It's the hype from the video that gets
it is. Every time I watch it, I'm like,
I don't know.
He's going to send you his bill.
That's
I still have the Carnival mystery box playing in my hideout. Ew,
awesome.
With
mystery boxes, this is pretty much something which it's cool because I can experiment more. Those all those skins are also many times different. So I can just completely go crazy with certain things as long as it kind of fits to general idea of PoE music, and go along with certain way how music in trailer is supposed to sound. But regarding all experiments, all ethnic stuff, but also with orchestral stuff, I like to do. Let's say I have a certain part of the brass sound, and I start to completely, manipulate with that, bend the whole thing down, or completely pitch down by 2 octaves to make it sounds completely low, or different, or I can do that with any other instruments, and plus a lot of echo effect and some distortion. Like everything is good as long as the final results pretty much sonically fits to the track, because I don't think about any limitation. Okay, this doesn't work because culture-wise it's from different place. I completely ignore something like that as long as the final results fits together, and when you listen to that stuff and you see the picture, you feel, okay, that makes sense. I don't know what it is, but it makes sense. And blend together with other instruments, usually those orchestral ones, those which are, what you might expect, typical electric guitar, bass guitar, drum set or something.
I personally absolutely love your track, all of them, but your tracks with vocals always just stand out to me. I just love them. Like the Act 5 encampment, for example, with the singing. I love it. I think they do such a good job, because a lot of the times people don't realize, like, it's just perfectly intertwined with the music, that they don't realize there's singing or vocals with it. How many of your tracks have vocals? Is it a large or small percentage?
Actually, not many. The reason for that is, PoE players spend a lot of time in hideouts, in towns, especially when we talk about those places when you pretty much the safe zones, and going with vocal, if it's something quite prominent, something on the front, this is something quite risky, because at the first time might sound okay, that sounds cool. It has its own theme, and it's vocal, voice is beautiful or something. But then when you hear that many times, vocals can be more annoying. And based on my experience with the PoE, like with Act 4 in Highgate, I read some comments that people were annoyed by that vocal. Some people love it, but some people didn't like it, not from the beginning, but after time. So that's another tricky point, to consider very long playtime. This is something which our creative director pretty much kept reminding me all the time, because you can have something which sounds cool at the beginning, but after 1,000 hours, and I understand that people mute music after time. It's absolutely understandable. My role is basically make sure that you will mute that music very late, that you will keep playing as long as possible, and then you will keep getting back and unmuting that stuff. That's pretty much the goal, because this is a game, as I said, long term. Music is always something which can be boring very quickly.
Now, PoE is obviously not PC anymore. It's on 2 consoles, mobile as well. Does what you do with music in the game do you have to change anything based on the platform, or can you just do what you do and then it just gets applied blindly?
So mobile is a different project. But what you've got on consoles, you've got pretty much the same. Like, I don't know if probably not even a bit different musically. I think so. Yeah.
Once tracks are in the game, like, is it often that I don't know, if maybe you're not happy with it or you want to make changes to it? Do you do that often?
So again, when there is a long-term content like PoE 2, I try to put something in a game quite quickly. So, it's not only me, but other people can actually hear that stuff in the game then, and it feels like, oh, yeah, this track is probably fine, but it's too short, or something like that. Or it's completely terrible, let's change that stuff. That's one thing. Yeah, and sometimes I feel like, okay, it's pretty much, I'm done with this track, but then after, a few days, or sometimes, we release content, and like, that Imperial Garden, my first track, which I mentioned, I definitely don't feel this track right now there. But back then, I was happy. I mean, yeah, pretty much happy.
Are there any tracks that have like a deep personal meaning to you? Or do you kind of separate, I don't know, personal influence from professional influence?
Let me think about that. As I said, I don't really like to listen to my own music, but with certain pieces, things maybe not change, but I kind of smile when I hear those that stuff. I think Legion is one of them. Blight theme. I don't know if that has personal ingredients there. That's actually an interesting question. I would have to probably go over all this over 200 tracks and find which one.
So you'll get back to us.
Probably back then when I was making something and I had some situation in my life, personal life, somehow impacted that music. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like with some tracks, I just feel more exciting and that's sort of like a grand plan or something. I would say, like when I was working on Elder, I was super hyped, super excited. In general, I think stuff related to the Atlas. It just because it's an end game. It's super. It gets more important. You don't want a boring, terrible track at the very end when you fight a final boss.
Right.
It's just this is something which sometimes drives me crazy. If the game has a great music, but the final encounter is somehow, I don't know, forgettable.
Yeah, it's not
and
good.
That's why I love Dark Souls, because like even with very first encounter, the very first boss has absolutely amazing music, and everything is very memorable. Like fight with those with twin brothers. What's the name? Lottery?
Oh, the princes?
Yeah, princess. Lottery.
Oh, don't even get me started on the first 50 times I tried that.
Yeah,
fight.
but the thing is, the music there, so melancholic, absolutely amazing. And I feel responsible. I feel obligated that to bring something memorable for the final boss fights. And Elder was like, oh, that's the ultimate, enemy.
Yeah, I think you definitely did that for quite a few of them too. If we go back 4 years, you did a written interview, I think it was, and you had mentioned that the Solaris mystery box was one of your favorite things that you had composed. We actually used that for After Dark, for the After Dark version of our podcast. Is that still one of your more favorite?
I like Solaris theme, Solaris and Lunaris theme. I don't know, probably because those two, when you have a goddess, you want to portray her by having something which is beautiful, kind of eternal, but in the same time quite, terrifying. So, and I just like those sort of emotions, those sort of feelings. Yeah, and probably, but the Solaris mystery box, that's actually a bit tricky situation, because this track was reused. We supposed to had second Ascendancy trailer, and it didn't make up. I mean, this track was just used for Solaris mystery box. I wasn't here in New Zealand back then, I guess, yet, or maybe I was. And it was used in mystery box, and that was my first introduction to mystery boxes. I didn't even know about using this one. And, Eric sent me a link to the released, published Solaris mystery box, and he was like, the comments are pretty good. And
they're really good.
And I started reading, and I was so grateful, and it was amazing. And then I realized that what if I can actually find a place for this track somewhere in the game, but not by forcing it in any way. It was in in my weight room. I've got pretty big weight room, and after time, I felt like those few notes, because there's that instrument, which is pretty much, I guess, Persian instrument, but a synthetic version of it. Those few notes basically felt like, yeah, that's it. And then I started writing something more complex for both Solaris and Lunaris. So it's more like a dialogue between them.
Wow, that's cool.
And I like this theme to the point that with new mystery box came out, all the information about new mystery box, I was like, yeah, let's do this again. Just let's take it to another level.
So it's funny because you're talking about Solaris and Lunaris and it being a beautiful like thought, or what, you know, in your head, that's what's going on. And then minutes ago or at half an hour, I don't even know if time's like stopped for me, but we were talking about like a crypt, and we're talking about outside and bosses. Like, do you find like to create the diversity and stuff between all these tracks, but yet keep the Path of Exile overtone still Path of Exile? Is it hard to like bounce between them?
I mean, yeah, with that amount of content, it's quite difficult. I think there are certain, like theme-wise, mostly theme-wise, and the fact that there's not many rules about using instruments also became a rule. Like, I mean, okay, there are certain premises which basically define almost every single piece. Like, I love to overuse reverb and echo to the point that it became like another instrument. Like you can hear music from some other games where music feels like it's right on front of you, and here I always try to put that stuff more on a distance because of the perspective. It's not a first-person shooter, right?
Right.
And that's the one thing which kind of defines music in PoE. Another, which is not something unique, but when you go with all of those premises, it become a certain plan how to deal with another track. And another thing is experimentation with some guitars. Like nothing. I don't really like to put something which sounds like specific genre of music. So I mix stuff, all these experiments with guitars, with a lot of echo, all that stuff, basically supposed to sound like some, let's say, Mid-East instrument, Persian Empire, whatever. It just follows certain patterns. And culture-wise, PoE has some certain influences. Of course, it depends on the region, but we have some Maori. We have Templars. We have what else? Val Empire. All that stuff. It's actually interesting how to find something common between all of them.
Right.
Maybe some industrial elements, but in the same time, a lot of pressure on the ethnic instruments. Sometimes, like there's always that rotation. It's never like pure orchestral, pure, metal kind of sound, pure ethnic to the point that it fits to the specific region. It's always like a mixed rotation. I don't know. I also think I kind of developed some signature sounds maybe over time, because you can't really have everything different all the time. And themes. I think that's the final way to get everything together in a macro scale. You've got the main theme, and you've got the different variation of that theme, which became its own. When you think about the Falophoria theme, the main theme, then you've got Templar's theme, which kind of correspond to this one. It's a bit different. It's longer. But in the same time, it corresponds to that one. And I've got my certain scales which I operate. I tend to write on D. I don't know. It's just some things which became like part of my palette over all these years. So you can hear that maybe it's consistent. I hope so. And the tools which I use.
That's awesome.
How closely tied to sound effects are you?
I would say that every single piece of music has a certain degree of sound effects involvement. When you have a percussive elements, And even melodic elements. It just sometimes they came out from something which is supposed to be sound effects per se, like clock. That's a good example. Well, I used the sounds which didn't necessarily, they weren't designed to be an instrument per se, but I found that actually cool to just use it as the instrument, percussive instrument, and line up together with other percussive percussion.
That clock specific was to Heist too, wasn't it? Didn't I think I saw you mention that? Yeah.
So there's a lot of sound effects. When I talk with Kane, our audio lead, and he's doing he does his job, and I do my job. We have some sort of middle ground. It's usually ambience, but sometimes we discuss what exactly supposed to be a sound effects, or what exactly supposed to be part of the music. There are some certain situations like I don't remember if we discussed this one about the alarm sound. Probably that was quite obvious that he would take care of that, but sometimes there is something which might be quite between. We just find a perfect solution.
That's cool.
The most excited purchase that I've ever made in my Path of Exile history is the Hideout music box. I freaking love that thing. It is so cool, and I go through it, and I always want to switch my stuff. And find it. And I'm always like epic, and oh man. So anyway, who chooses what music goes in there?
You guys. I mean, no.
Really?
No. You mean okay?
No,
you mean
selection. I'm in.
You mean selection. Well, when it comes to the selection, I think PoE is a good example of game where players have access to almost every single piece of music, which was somewhere. But it's not really a case in other games, and there are certain things which just doesn't make sense to be there. Like, I don't know, like every single trailer or something. And there are a lot of duplicates, like Chaos and Order Mystery Box, which I guess, it became later a very straight inspiration for the Kitava in Act 10. It is almost the same track. So there's not, you can't expect like everything there, but definitely most of the stuff get there. But there are certain exceptions. It's because of the technical nature. Heist is a good example because the music is very modular. It doesn't make some parts. It doesn't make sense musically on its own. So, like, not every piece of Heist music is in Hideout. Like every single bit of it. Like, you don't hear that alert level. No, sorry, countdown kind of part there. But everything which can be considered as a piece of music, like, full boss fight, or especially encampment music. This is something which, I think every single one is there.
All the encampment ones are,
Because, to be honest, I feel like that's pretty much what's supposed to be in a Hideout music player. I fully understand that it's sometimes cool to play boss fight music, but I mean, I would not probably, but because I'm crazy about music which serve the purpose, and Hideout is pretty much peaceful, unless someone create Hideout the way that it looks so scary, so dramatic that it's actually cool to increase that adrenaline. But I'm kind of fan of mostly using Hideout music in Hideouts, which it's from encampments.
My wife's totally like that. Like, I have the boss music. I normally have the Ascendant theme in my Hideout, and it's and my wife, whenever she's walking by the TV because I'm playing on Xbox, she's like, "Why? It's so intense. Like, it's your Hideout. Just relax."
Listen to your wife.
Now, I just noticed recently, though, I forget if it was this most recent league or if it was the league prior. I get it all jumbled in my head, but there was part of the notes was we've expanded the amount of songs or tracks that are in your hideout music player. Is that something that's continuing until all the boss music is in there, or is that just something that people found were missing?
There always will be something missing, right? Because of those aspects which I mentioned. That something doesn't really work as a piece of music itself. Something is too ambientish, perhaps, or I don't know. There are many reasons to not have every single piece of music, but I think the selection. I hope so. It's quite big.
It's huge.
All right, so we're going to shift just slightly into PoE 2, just because we have some questions, but not details. I know you can't tell us anything unless you really want to. I mean, PoE 2 was announced a bit ago, but obviously you guys have been dealing with it for a while. But was there a change for you with regards to what the type of work you were doing and how much work you were doing when PoE 2 started to become a triple G thing?
Nice.
I had to think about it for half a second before I said it.
I wonder how my colleagues are aware about that triple G name.
We don't take credit for it.
Yeah, I hear this one on your podcast lately, and I was like,
yeah.
I guess I was at the gym back then, and people just saw me smiling like crazy. Yeah, triple G. And anyway, so I think that PoE 2, there's an update on many aspects of the game. Like, I love new character models. The things are just, when you think that something was inspiring, then the new thing usually is more inspiring. Just that progression. And because I really tried to, from very beginning, make sure that the things are more consistent. There's more planning, really more planning, less improvisation. That really changed. I think with every big expansion, like of course PoE 2, it's something way bigger, but just the level of the depth, the level of planning just goes higher. Expectation goes higher. I think it's quite progressive. It's not like a pretty much a big jump from the beginning, but
can you do more with the changes? Like, does your ability, were you ever limited with the previous version of the game where you wish you could have added something, but the game I don't know how it works in the background, but was there something that you couldn't do before? Maybe Path of Exile 2 does give you the opportunity to do a little bit more?
I don't think that I have any limitations. When you have a games, strictly single-player games, where you've got everything super scripted, a lot of small, very granular modules of music and layers, you might want to get the perfect tool for that and go, collaborate very closely with everyone to make sure that it really works this way. PoE isn't necessarily that sort of game, but we get things more complex now. I try to, make it more complex, more interesting, not get too far with that, to stay more musically. But I don't feel like I ever had any limitation because I wanted to do something with music and I couldn't. Yeah. I don't know, maybe in past, but at this point, I don't think so.
And when, I'm just kind of curious, when you joined with Path of Exile, and is there much music left that you didn't write in the current version of Path of Exile?
Not much. It's like a few tracks, 10 tracks maybe in total, I think, from different guys. From Andrew, our ex-audio lead and sound designer.
Right.
What else? From Russell Walder, 2 tracks. Yeah. From Gauntier, there's 2 tracks as well.
Is it, maybe it's not that much different than because you've just been around with Path of Exile for so long, but is there any added pressure now that you're going into PoE 2 and everything's you? I mean, it kind of has been that way already for Path of Exile for a while, but is there any added pressure now? Do you feel any added pressure with regards to PoE 2 brand new and everything musically is you.
Yeah, there's always that constant level of anxiety and excitement in the same time. I think, yeah, definitely. But I don't think it's this is something extraordinary. This is pretty much part of this job, where you. I mean, of course, if you are if you participate as composer under the music director, you pretty much just follow certain ideas, just to try to keep up, and you've got a certain dose of music which you have to do. And in this situation, my situation, it's very long-term plan, and that's quite scary. But after all these years, feels just more like every day. and from
awesome.
The other hand, you pay price of that for that need for more control. That if you have more control over the content, over the consistency, you can execute your vision better. I mean,
right.
Sometimes it works for you, sometimes not. Sometimes it pretty much affects your personal life, which is not good. But trust me, again, when I hear about other composers, it's something which is always there. The market is oversaturated by people who want to be composers, and you always have to constantly improve, get better, be able to manage a larger part of the music, make sure that everything is consistent. It's just necessary. It's good to have that lesson. I still there's a lot of pressure, but at the same time, I feel like I'm in a very friendly environment. It feels like I'm kind of in a home with a very big family, and that basically helps me to feel less of that pressure and more of that excitement. But you can't eliminate that pressure and anxiety at all.
It's really good to hear.
You actually just kind of mentioned the fact that it's like a big family there, and you had talked previously that you worked a lot with people, or that you communicate back and forth quite a bit with people in other departments. Is there a favorite person that you like to work with?
That's the wrong question.
Okay. How about the worst? We'll go with that one then. Who's the worst?
I will answer this question differently. So there are people who I have to work, and there are people who I just want to work. But usually there are the same people. I mean, I just like to talk with as many as possible from different perspective. Well, when we go with environment, I talk with our environment art director. When I want to get idea about some elements of story which I'm not aware, I talk with our writer, and so on. I definitely work. I work very close with our audio lead, for sure. So it's really hard to say. I just like to work with them, and that's pretty much it. And they make my work easier. That's something which I really enjoy. And there's a lot of cool. Discussion and like I make music, right? But I like to be involved in other discussions and just maybe some brainstorm, and I can give some ideas about story or something like that. I just enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
So are you secretly the most knowledgeable pathofexile employee? Like when they're discussing how to change the tree and what ascendancy changes they need to make or what skills to create, they're like, you know what? We can't decide. I don't know. We got to go ask Kamil.
It's definitely opposite, right? Sometimes I feel a bit ashamed that I'm not very good at that stuff. It's, again, mostly about time and the fact that whenever I get more into that technical things or mechanics or building, I just might lose some perspective of what I'm actually supposed to do. I'm definitely one of the least person to talk about, okay, how to be efficient in farming, shaper or something. It's not my thing at all. I guess you guys would like to talk about that stuff, but it's.
We are not in that. I certainly am not either. I know how to put points in a tree.
Yeah, I think I know that as well.
See, there we go.
And the tree is very big.
We're just kind of curious. A lot of people obviously stream Path of Exile, and for quite a while, I know there was a big change that happened with Twitch with regards to people being able to stream their own like music playing. They're not allowed to do that anymore. Did it ever bother you or affect you that you kind of answered this in the last video as a joke, but that people mute the music or were muting the music, or like if you go back really far, there were issues on the performance side, which I've not experienced in a long time with regards to having music playing. But does it ever bother you that people are sometimes muting the music?
So the performance thing, if you think about music as a single track, usually when the music is interactive, it's mostly one segment after another. It's rather not the layers idea where you've got like a 5 of them, 6 of them, or even more. So there's one source of music, one source of audio. So I don't think this affects performance in the way that it would be significant. Really. Okay. I'm not an expert. Trust me. The least person to ask about it. But this is pretty much logical. When you have like a...
So it was a conspiracy theory?
I don't think it's conspiracy. It's more like, okay, so let's say that some people think that the audio that affect performance. So there's some music as well. Let's just mute everything and just keep item alert. What's the name of it? Filter. Yeah. Let's keep this one because this is necessary thing. And I really don't have a strong opinion about that. I just can tell you that from a logical point of view, music's supposed to not affect performance. Not at all, but not the way that it would be significant at any way. When
in the video, it was actually a great end to that Path of Exile 2 video where he kind of threw a question at you right at the end about people muting the music. But what I mentioned to Tyler when I was looking at the comments, I actually noticed that you had responded to somebody who, people were obviously saying, you don't mute the music. It's amazing. It's incredible, which is true. And you actually made a really good point of saying, look, if it's getting repetitive, then sometimes that's why you mute the music. Like it's not personal against the music. It's just if you're constantly farming this one zone, you might turn it down.
With that question, I was completely got caught off guard. And my reaction. The thing is, I mute music as well. So, but when you play the game first time, right? I think this is how we as developers intend to show you the game. Everything is like consistent, so at least supposed to be, and it's like one full product, one full organism. Which when you just take one part of it, for some people, music might be not necessary. I think to keep from the very beginning, but I think it's just good to try. Like from my perspective, music lover and composer, it probably does not count. And I play every single player game with music on all the time. But when it comes to games like PoE, when you spend much more time, you farm. Like I have to confess that I listen to podcasts when I farm. So but I like to be efficient. I like to do a few things at once. I really don't mind that some people actually do the same. It's absolutely normal. Just give it a try at the beginning, especially when there is a new content which is very much focused on story.
Right.
I mean. Like with PoE 2, for instance. Give it a try.
Oh, it sounds awesome so far. Just a little bit we've gotten to hear.
When you need a break from all this PoE stuff, you mentioned like what you used to listen to make you fall asleep when you were younger. What do you listen to when you're trying to escape from PoE land? Or do you never escape?
I don't escape. I don't have to. I think it's
That's good.
After many years of working with the picture, you just need to be able to switch off sometimes. I listen to a lot of stuff. The problem is that sometimes I get that thing of finding the reference instead of just enjoying the music. Like, okay, let's add this to this specific playlist. Might be useful, you know. But I listen to... I'm very much soundtrack guy. So because in the soundtrack, you pretty much you can find every single genre. Like when you listen to soundtrack from Django, this is pretty much mostly songs. But like many times I find my favorite songs because I watched a movie or I played games and I hear that song in credits or in cutscene. That's about songs. Sometimes I explore some specific genres like synthwave or some other stuff from EDM or some rock stuff. I don't know. Some stuff like 9 Inch Nails. This is something which I listen for my pleasure and for a reference as well. It's just I like to combine those two things. Like listen just something which gives me a lot of joy and also can be useful.
Now, feedback can come in a lot of different forms in PoE, and music seems to have always had positive feedback. Like it's like every other department can get good praise, but very negative feedback. But music's always positive. Do you ever rub it in your coworkers' faces that you have the safest department in PoE land?
I see you saved best questions for the very end.
Right?
No, to be honest, when you think about this objectively, music is the easiest thing to impress. The reason for that is simple because it's a asset which works outside of the game, has its own life, and it's highly subjective whether music is good or not. When something doesn't work, or I don't know, like certain animation or something, it's more it's easier to actually say, okay, this doesn't work. And in case of music, it just also it's more difficult to judge that stuff. And I think, you know, if you like a few pieces of music, then you are more likely to like another one after that from the same composer. I try to just make as good music as possible, but like it's not your opinion can't be fully objective whether the new piece of music is great or not. Because if you say that you like the last 10 tracks, that you've got like a 50% boost to the 11 one, you know? It just the wave of hype it just goes on. And I'm so grateful and I appreciate all good feedback. Just it's difficult to compare music specifically to other content the way that, okay, music has a good feedback again. I mean, I see my colleagues how they work hard and how difficult it is to fix some stuff, how game became big and how ambitious and a different schedule. Like for me, I can work from the very beginning, as I said. It gives me more joy and all that stuff, and maybe it also affects music as well. But not everyone can work from the very beginning. It's, you know, it's a chain of production. When you are blocked and then you suddenly you've got very limited time, it's a bit more difficult to have something to make something very decent. And I think it's I don't know, just other stuff. I think it's easier to criticize.
Now, I'm going to sneak this question in here before we ask you our last question here, but I'm going out on a limb because you're a standard player, and that's, yeah. So Do you play on PC or console? There is a correct answer.
I know you guys have a different answers for that. Well,
Tyler's
the best answer is obviously both. No, that's the recommended answer, you know?
Well, as long as you've touched it on console, that's fine.
I can tell you
controller in your hand.
I can tell you what is my experience with PoE in this way. So I've been always a PC player, and the games like Diablo and PoE obviously works better for me on PC. But I was really amazed how the PS4 version works and how much fun you can have. And because I work a lot, and after I finish my work, I'm not very happy to, go with PC again, because I use PC for my work.
Sure.
Just big screen, comfortable couch, and then just pad. It makes sense for me, and I like them both for different things. Like if I want to play alone and just enjoy small aspects, I would probably play on console. And if I want to play more competitive and with some friends, I would go with PC. But I'm not saying that you can do opposite. Yeah, that's a perfect answer.
No, I get what you're trying to say.
Very PC answer.
PC is dead.
No.
Forever.
I keep playing.
I read
most of my high-level characters on PC.
I'm just twisting your words for my preference. So last question for you, but this one's the most important, so don't screw it up. Do you have a Path of Exile tattoo? If you do, what is it? If you don't, what would it be?
I don't. And I have no plan to have any tattoo. That's a correct answer, yeah.
Easy.
I mean, if I have to choose, I don't know.
There's a million things. It's an impossible question. We expect an answer, though.
I mean, if I would have tattoo, it would be something focus on more symmetric shape instead of just having a nice, I don't know, face of someone, but placed poorly. I don't know, to be honest. Maybe some symbols, I don't know, on both arms or something, nicely placed. But I don't know. I'm not very much into tattoos.
All right. Well, hey, listen, we don't want to take much more of your time up. We really appreciate you giving us some time on your Sunday and hanging out with us for a bit. It was really, really cool to chat with you.
Huge pleasure.
Thanks for having me here.
Thank you very much, Kamil. Everybody knows who you are. You'll be linked. We'll put your information down below, but everybody knows who you are and where to find you. But Twitter, what's the best place? Twitter, YouTube?
I guess Twitter.
Yeah, because you upload music to your YouTube channel, but is it ever up there before it goes out through the PoE channel?
Not really. I mean, there's specific way of idea to upload music on YouTube. It's always released content, something which you can expect from supporter pack. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much. Sometimes we might have some sort of preview. Which is like a fully official one from PoE, like we did with the latest track from Heist. But usually it's a released content with some after some delay, and then after that it get to the SoundCloud as well.
Sweet. All right. Well, yeah, we'll link it below. But thank you again. Huge thanks from both of us and everybody listening for giving us some time to chat. And we will catch you again sometime. Thank you so much, Kamil, for joining Tyler and I today on Forever Exiled. We had a blast chatting with you, and thank you for everybody listening. This has been Forever Exiled, a Path of Exile podcast episode ? This is Justin, aka Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
We will catch our Patreons in After Dark, and everybody else, we'll see you in the next episode. We have a website, foreverexiled.com, Twitter, foreverexiled82. We have a Discord link, a Patreon link, and you can find additional information for finding Kamil and bugging him through Twitter, if you will. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Kamil doesn't know this, but we've nicknamed him the Tingler.